Tales from the wild. Stories from the heart. A journey into the mind and soul of fired-up business professionals where they share their vision for the future. And hear from a different non-profit organization every month as they create awareness of their goals and their needs. Dive into a world of untamed passion as we join our host, Shireen for this month's episode of Friends from Wild Places.
All right. Hi, good day. Goeiedag, professionals. Shireen here from Shireen's Bookkeeping Services. Let's talk about loans. If you have QuickBooks Online and a bookkeeper like me, you can track what's going on like a lion tracks its prey. QuickBooks comes with part of the package of signing up with me. So no sweat. If you're paying off a loan monthly, it's important to book that payment that you find on your bill from your financing company. But you need to identify what is the principal parts of the payments and what is the interest part and book it separately. And here's why. The interest can be expensed and your principal is the actual loan liability, your notes payable. So if you want to know more, make me your bookkeeper today at www.shireensbookkeeping.com and keep your books clean. All right. Hi, and welcome back, everybody, to Friends from Wild Places. I'm excited for this episode today. I'm always excited, but this is going to be a good one. So I'm so glad you've joined us. I'm going to introduce you to my co-host for today. This is Todd Lyon from Lyon Wealth Management. How you doing, Todd? Welcome.
Doing lovely. You know, it's evening for you, and it's just after 1 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific Coast time for me. So
Right.
Ready to start a Friday weekend, right? Ready to end Friday and start the weekend.
Exactly. Thanks for highlighting that. Yes, I am situated right now in South Africa, and Todd is in California, the United States. So two different time zones, but you know what? We make it work. So how Todd and I met one another is through BNI, which is Business Networking International. And I know I've spoken about this before, but it's super important that you all know that as a business owner and as a professional, everyone needs to be part of a networking group. You just have to find the right one for your personality and for your business. And BNI was that for me. So when I found BNI, I had to find my own chapter. And that's how I found my chapter, which is situated in the Bay Area, California, called High Performance Referrals. And so, as I said, they're situated in California, and that's where my business is formed. And that has been my tribe, my crew, my team for networking. And that is also how I met Todd, who is our fiduciary of the group as well. And while we're talking about HPR, we would love to actually advertise the fact that it is permanently online on Zoom every Tuesday, PST time, 7 a.m. in the morning. Great time to rise and shine and start your day off on a good note with smiles and laughter and with your team. And actual fact, we have a couple of categories required still in our group, of which a lawyer, architect, CPA, enrolled agent, structural engineer, graphic designer are some of the few that I can think of off the top of my head. And Todd, please just chip in if there's any other categories that I've forgotten.
Yeah, I will say that the legal profession, we're looking for trust and estate attorneys, what's the term that I want? Intellectual property, business attorneys. I mean, there's so many different kinds of attorneys out there, Shireen, right? That, you know, we have a spot for each of them. And that's the beauty of the BNI way, is we only have one person represent each seat.
Yes.
So I am the financial advisor in the chapter. And as Shireen mentioned, I am a fiduciary. I have my own firm, and we'll get into that later. But the bottom line is we have room for all of these different categories, and we're opening up those seats and saying, come and join us and check us out. Come and visit, see what it's all about.
Right. And when we say come and visit, there's no strings attached. Come and see if our group fits your personality, if our group fits your business. And if so, then you might want to decide to join us. And I understand that a lot of the categories that we just mentioned are locally based. And yes, if you are listening right now and are sitting in the Bay Area, California, we're talking to you. And if you are one of these categories, please email me at shireen@shireensbookkeeping.com. Pause it, listen to it again, write it down, shireen@shireensbookkeeping.com. That will also be in the podcast notes, so don't worry about it. But email us, tell us exactly the category that you're in and that you want to come visit us, and we will go through the process and get you there. Again, it's just visit us and see what you think. I think I've mentioned everything, Todd. Oh, you don't have to be local, right, Todd? I mean,
that's correct. Ideally, you want to have a local address, though, which, yeah,
exactly,
we can make that happen.
Right. So as you can see, I mean, I'm from South Africa, and I'm part of the HPR team, High Performance Referrals team. So it can work if your business is global. If you can do your business from anywhere in the world, then you can simply add a physical address, which is easy through iPostal nowadays, and you're A4 away. So if you are sitting anywhere in the world and you have one of those businesses that work from anywhere in the world and one of these empty categories that we have, please email us. Go ahead, shireen@shireensbookkeeping.com. We would love to have you. So, and if you're watching on YouTube, you don't have any excuse. You can comment below. Tell us your business. Tell us that you would like to come and visit, and we'll get hold of you. So no excuse if you're watching. So let's get back to Todd. Todd, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
So it's interesting because I actually started with a local firm in San Francisco that was founded in San Francisco in 1924 by the name of Dean Witter. And Dean Witter was an actual guy. And there's a connection to where I went to school, University of California, Berkeley, because the Witter family were all Berkeley graduates, and as was Dean. But what was so unique about the way I approach this is I actually had a job when I was graduating from Cal. I was going to go into commercial real estate, but then a fraternity brother friend of mine said one day, hey, he was working in an office in San Francisco for Dean Witter. His father had been, was an advisor actually with a competitor firm. And so he got him a job working in this office. And he said, Todd, there's a guy here who's looking for someone to just come in and give him a hand, maybe, stuff some envelopes. And I said, okay, I'll see if I can think of someone. And then a week later, he asked me again. And then the light bulb went off. And I said, what the heck? I'm not doing anything. I was taking like one course, and finishing up my career. And so I said, sure, I'll do it. Now, this was in the last Great Recession, before the Great Recession. So we're talking about 1982, which was a really severe recession when we were coming out of super, super high interest rates, super high inflation, and a really difficult time. In fact, people said, don't even try to get a job in San Francisco.
Right.
So as I said, I had this job in commercial real estate, but then pivoted and ended up starting in this job as literally a grunt, a cold caller, a grunt for the firm and for that specific office. And lo and behold, here I am 40 years later, and I have my own firm. And boy, what a ride it's been.
Right. So my next question was, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. Okay. So as most people know what financial advisors do, people have a vision of, the stock trading floor and stockbrokers like the movie Wall Street and all these crazy movies that are out there where they're just, buying and selling securities for people. And that's part of the business. But my view as a fiduciary is that I like to say that I coach families to make sound financial decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about their portfolio, it's about how are they handling their tax situation?
Yeah.
How are they handling their estate plan? How are things working with their family? How do they have young children? Do they have elder parents? It all fits together. It's really a holistic approach to wealth management. And what makes it different for me is that I partner with the other experts that my clients work with. I work with their CPA. I work with their estate planning attorney. I work with their legacy planner in helping to create and expand that wealth over multiple generations. So that's my definition of what a fiduciary is. It's not just the base of managing money for people. It's helping with all of their assets. It's coordinating all of that. And I call that dynamic fiduciary wealth management, because what is happening in the world is dynamic, constantly changing, whether it's the financial markets, whether it's tax, whether it's legal, all of these things are constantly changing. Someone, Shireen, has to sit there and coordinate it all, right? So that's a role that I really play. It's kind of as a quarterback, or for those of you who are rugby aficionados, a scrum half on the field, okay, where I'm literally there, keeping it all together, staying on top of everything. You know, I'm not a CPA, but I've reviewed thousands of tax returns in my lifetime in this position. I'm not an estate planning attorney, but I've reviewed thousands of estate planning documents in my time here in this business. So I think this is the true definition of what wealth management is. You rely on the other professionals that the families work with. You coordinate with them, all for the benefit of that family.
Right. That is so good. And that's why we work well together, because as a bookkeeper and you being a fiduciary, you're always speaking to CPAs that are always looking for bookkeepers, or families that are looking for bookkeepers that own. So we're natural referral partners. So that's why Todd and I are really, really good together.
And, you know, just not to interrupt you, Shireen, but a lot of these families own lots of businesses. They're not just necessarily doctors, lawyers, you know, et cetera. I have plenty of clients that are those professionals, but we also have business owners, and those business owners need what Shireen has, right? They need what I have. Maybe they're thinking about, okay, what's next? Maybe I want to retire. Okay, well, there's a whole process that we have to go to, and Shireen and the CPA are a critical part of that process of evaluating what a business is worth. And I have resources with that as well. And actually, I have resources to help them actually sell if they choose to, or transfer to family members, or transfer to their employees. So we have all of these resources available to us that really just dovetail together perfectly.
Exactly. So tell me, Todd, but this is a very big question that everyone wants to know. What is the difference between a financial advisor and a fiduciary?
Yeah, it's a good one. I've been both.
I'm sure you have.
I started out as a financial advisor, and I realized very quickly that there were conflicts of interest and biases in that business that did not accrue to the benefit of the client. They accrued to the benefit of the company. And if the company was publicly traded, they accrued to the shareholders of the company. So there's real conflicts of interest on the financial advisor side. As a fiduciary, it's a requirement in this country, United States, that you have to act in your client's best interest. You have to put their interests ahead of you and your interests. And that's a legal responsibility, Shireen.
Yeah.
It's very clear. And actually what this came out of was the Great Depression, when there was an issue with banks, unfortunately, not doing the right thing at that time when we had that great event. And so out of that, Congress created this separation of banks and advisors. Well, in 1996-ish, they got put back together again. Okay, so that created these conflicts of interest again to arise, and that's on the financial advisor side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
On the fiduciary side of the business, everything we do has to be completely transparent. People can see everything about their costs, everything. It's all completely open. The other side is opaque. And again, I've been on both sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know what happens on the financial advisor side versus what happens on the fiduciary side.
You're right, right. Makes so much sense. Thanks, Todd. Let's go a little bit deeper, Todd. Why do you do what you do? And why I ask that, I mean, what was that one experience that happened in your life that made you realize that this is what you wanted to do? It could be, it doesn't have to be an epiphany. I mean, it could have just been, as you said, mate that says, hey, we've got a position opened up here, come and join, you know?
Right.
Right.
Well, I always was interested in the financial markets. My father was an entrepreneur. He graduated from the UC system and then went to Stanford Business School. And when he came out, he started walking around the Wall Street in San Francisco, the small little Pacific Coast Stock Exchange area, and interviewing with all the major brokerage firms at the time. A lot of those are now gone. They've merged or they disappeared.
Right.
But they all said that he should be an analyst and not a stockbroker. So when I was very young, we were encouraged to work. I had, numerous jobs, but primarily like a paper route. So I'd have a little extra money, and I'd go to my dad and I'd say, Dad, you're in the know here. You're involved in this. Tell me a stock to buy. What stock should I buy?
Mm.
And he always said, read this book.
Right.
He never told me, buy IBM or buy Intel or whatever it was, buy Royal Dutch Shell. He said, read this book. So it started an interest in me in the financial markets very, very early on. And when the opportunity presented itself, it just clicked. He had involvement in real estate as well. That's why, it was initially interesting to think about going into commercial real estate. But in the end, I knew that deep down that I had this interest in the financial markets. And so that really drove me. But then when I realized that this concept of a fiduciary is so critical, it actually came about, Shireen, as a result of my little sister. So she also was, she actually graduated from Stanford and Stanford Business School. She and my dad were one of the first father-daughter graduates from Stanford Business School.
Wow.
She went to work for the drug companies, and the drug companies, after her stint, Wall Street wanted her to be a drug analyst. They wanted her to come and follow all the drug companies. And she said, they said, we're going to pay you very well to come and work for us, with one stipulation. You must follow all the companies that we are trying to do an underwriting for with a positive rating. Now, what does that mean? Well, maybe the company wanted to raise some more money, so they were either going to issue new stock or they were going to issue more bonds. So the requirement was, you will be paid very, very well, but you cannot be critical of the companies we're trying to get business from. What does that say to you? That's not being a fiduciary, in my opinion, right? So that it was the late 80s when this happened, made me realize even further that there's a better way to do it. And so literally in the late 80s, I started transitioning my business to a fiduciary-based business. Even though I was at a firm that I couldn't call myself a fiduciary, the departments that I work with were fiduciary-based and work with fiduciary advisors. So I transitioned away from the financial advisor stockbroker model to the fiduciary type model. And then in 2008, I fully ripped off the Band-Aid and said, that's it. I'm going to be a fiduciary. And that's when I joined Hightower and created Lyon Wealth Management.
That is awesome. That is awesome. That is such a cool story. Thanks, Todd. Now, listen, tell me, talking about that, don't you have your own podcast as well?
Yes, we just started it recently. It's called The Lion's Den. My last name is spelled Lyon. So The Lion's Den. We've done a couple of podcasts on one topic. It was on estate planning. And I had with me my office mate here, in my office in Tiburon, California, is an estate planning attorney.
Right.
And we get along very well because he's one of those, like you, one of those core people that we cross-refer business to. And also we have a financial planning department inside Hightower called Wellspring. And so Greg Rabe and Brooke Halsey joined me for 2 sessions so far on what are the things people should be thinking about with regards to estate planning. Another area that's dynamic, it's constantly changing. They were trying to change the rules last year. They weren't successful, thankfully, but that doesn't mean the rules aren't going to change in the future. So that was the topic for these first couple of podcasts. We're going to go on to other topics related to, the financial world, be it talking about bonds or actually talking about the markets and what's happening in the markets and interest rates and everything. So it's going to be a regular occurrence. Thanks for asking, Shireen.
No, that's awesome. And tell me, what are all the platforms that we can find you on?
So at this point, it's expanding because Hightower's marketing department is expanding our reach. Right. Eventually, I'm going to be on all the same platforms that you're on, no question. So YouTube, what are some of the others? I mean, they handle all that for me. So,
do they? Okay.
Obviously posting on LinkedIn, Twitter, right? Facebook.
So if they search the Lion's Den, Lyon, they could possibly find it.
Yes.
You just search for it. Just like you search for podcasts on the platforms, they can just search for it, right?
Right, exactly.
That's awesome. Okay, well, today is a great day to start your own podcast. Whether you're looking for a new marketing channel, have a message you want to share with the world, or just think it would be fun to have your own talk show, podcasting is an easy, inexpensive, and fun way to expand your reach online. Buzzsprout is hands down the easiest and best way to launch, promote, and track your podcast. Your show can be online and listed in all the major podcast directories like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts within minutes of finishing your recording. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners. And the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Following the link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you. Gets you $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan and help support my show. So let's create something great together. So go on, find that link and use it so that you can start your own podcast. So, Todd, I'm very excited to introduce the next person onto the show. She is our nonprofit for the episode for today. Her name is Christine Howard, and I think she's waiting to be admitted into our podcast area here. All right, I see something happening here. Christine, can you hear us?
Christine, you're on mute.
Christine, can you hear us? Hello.
It's not letting me unmute.
Shut up. It's not letting you unmute. Oh, Christine.
Maybe Christine, go back out and then come back in again.
Oh, there you go. Wait, we see.
Oh, wait, no, we got you. Sorry
about that. It said the host was not allowing people to unmute, and then I had another pop up on the side that said "click here," and I was like, "Okay." Hi, how are y'all?
Oh, I'm so glad we got you. Yes.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
To all the listeners that you are Christine Howard, who is part of Alzheimer's Association, which is one of my most favorite nonprofits, and a really large one. So I'm so blessed to have actually found someone that's willing to come on this podcast and just represent. So Christine is actually also part of BNI, but she's part of the BNI chapter that's in Texas, Houston, Texas, called Power Players. Yeah, and she's the Houston Walk Manager. So please welcome, Christine.
Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm excited.
It's absolute pleasure, and I'm super excited to have you on here, just to spread awareness and to answer questions, and just so everyone can hear a lot more about the Alzheimer's disease, or the dementias in general.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. So please go ahead. Would you share a little bit about yourself and what you do at Alzheimer's Association?
Of course. So I am Christine Howard. I am the Houston Walk Manager for the Alzheimer's Association. So one of the Alzheimer's Association biggest and largest events for fundraising and awareness is the Walk to End Alzheimer's. There are walks in the United States. There are over 600 walks nationwide. And then Houston being one of the largest and one of the highest revenue generating. In 2019, we had about 6,000 people come out to walk, and we raised over $1 million. And so wow. That money, very exciting. It was such a fun year. That money goes towards research, and a lot of the research is done here in Houston, Texas, which is really exciting as well. But also care programs, support groups, just different resources for families who are currently going through an Alzheimer's diagnosis with a loved one. And so we try to cover all the pillars and the needs of those who are affected by the disease.
Right. And so, Christine, what does Alzheimer's Association do for those that suffer from Alzheimer's and for the community, for the family members as well? It's not just the person that has.
Right, exactly. We do a lot of work with the families. We have a ton of education opportunities, and all of our education is free. Some are in person, either at local libraries, or they can be found online and on Facebook as well. And so people can log on, find what resources they need. The number one tool in our arsenal, though, is our 24/7 helpline. And so that number is answered 24/7 by an actual person. I like to say it can be 3 a.m. Christmas Eve and you're just stressed out and you need someone to talk to. You can call this helpline and someone can listen to you, give you whatever resources you need at any stage that you are in the Alzheimer's journey. And that number is 800-272-3900. So we can shout that all out too, because that is for the United States as well. And then online too, alz.org. People can find resources, again, free resources for anyone who's going through the disease at any stage.
Right. And we'll go in a little bit in depth in that, but let me remind you, listeners, pause it, rewind, play, and write it down. And yes. If you're watching, don't worry, I will have the information down for us as well so that we can.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. This is much needed. So, Christine, personally, we got to get down to it. Why do you do what you do?
Oh, a lot of reasons, really. So, it's near and dear to my heart. So my mom's mother, we called her Mama because we're Cajun, they're from Louisiana. She suffered with Alzheimer's for about 18 years, which is a really long time to have the disease. And so I saw it really throughout my childhood and growing up. She ended up passing right before I got married. So she got to meet my now husband, but didn't know who I was, didn't know who he was. And so I saw the devastation that it does take. We were all very close for so long. And then I have 2 girls of my own now. And I get choked up just thinking about it, but I never want to forget who they are. I don't want to forget their names, forget their faces. And I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. 1 in 3 seniors ends up having Alzheimer's or dementia. And look at this call right here. It's one of us. And so it's definitely a pressing issue that needs a lot of work to be done. But there is a lot of exciting work happening right now as well. So it's an exciting time to be involved, but there's still a long ways to go.
Right. Mm-hmm. And what you say now is so true. My uncle, unfortunately, is no longer with us, but he passed from dementia. And as I told you, my father has, the Parkinson's. It's in my family, and I've seen how you can still be physically able to do things, but slowly but surely your mind disappears. And it's very heartbreaking for the family members to no longer be recognized by the one person that, is the pillar of the family, or the big brother of the family, very, very heart-wrenching to see that. And we all given that same idea or just the same message from all the doctors is, here's what it is. You just, you got to let the process happen. There's nothing you can do kind of attitude,
Yeah, which is very frustrating.
I don't accept. Yeah.
Right.
And I know you're talking a little bit more about, that's not true. It's not true. You don't just have to allow the process to just happen.
Right.
There's a drug. I didn't even know that there was a drug, but you're saying that there's a drug that can help slow it down.
Yes, and there's still a lot of work being done on it and the accessibility of it, but there are clinical trials and there are drugs that we are working on to slow down the progression, to give people with Alzheimer's and their families more time. But there is also a lot of really interesting research and exciting research looking at preventing cognitive impairment, which is what leads to Alzheimer's and dementia. And so looking at lifestyle interventions such as diet, exercise, staying social, staying within the community. And so we have a study happening right now in the United States that was adopted from a study that was done in Finland, actually. The one in the United States is called the US Pointer Study. And it's just so exciting because one of the test sites is here in Houston, and it's looking at these lifestyle interventions to see if we can lower your risk of developing cognitive impairment, which again leads to Alzheimer's or dementia, any kind of dementia. So that'll be the first time we'll be able to scientifically be able to put that information out there, and then from there affect different policies and legislations to make these habits more accessible to everyone. Right. So I can geek out about it forever. It's a really fun thing.
Right. The more information, the better, because as I said, I'm sure a lot of people out there don't know this kind of information and know that there's actually something that they can reach out to for help, for assistance, for support,
Right, definitely.
So, Christine, what do you want people listening to know?
Just that we're here if they need them. That helpline number, 800, I'm going to say it again. I'll say it 10 times. 800-272-3900, 24/7, and then alz.org. We're here. I don't want people to come to us after and say, oh, I wish I had your resources when, right? We want to be here for you now. And then again, in the United States, we go into companies, we'll go to your church, we'll give free education programs, 10 ways to love your brain, warning signs of Alzheimer's, everything in between. We just want people to be informed and know what it's about and get the conversation going. So there's not that stigma behind it that we're scared to talk about it. Because I promise you, someone is dealing with this right now.
Exactly. And so,
can I ask a question, Shireen?
Please do, Todd. Go on in. I need to drink some tea.
Hey, Christine. Great stuff, and I'm really excited about what is happening research-wise. I mean, there's news breaking almost every day, right?
Right.
And that's fantastic. But I'm curious. There are obviously the ones that you're speaking of are Alzheimer's and dementia in general. What about like Lewy body and some of these other things? Are they related to Alzheimer's?
Yes. So I'm glad you asked. Dementia is the umbrella term, and there are a bunch of different types of dementia, with Alzheimer's being the most prevalent. And so that's why we are called the Alzheimer's Association. But really, we work with all types of dementia. And then they are, different kinds and different sources, but the result's kind of the same, right? It's that cognitive impairment. And so, great question. If you need resources on any type of dementia, please reach out to us because we will point you in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't know if you're probably familiar, but Robin Williams succumbed to Lewy body, the great comedian, and his wife Susan is here in Marin County, and she's really pushing hard to get awareness out there about this illness. And my own father passed away many years ago, and we didn't know whether it was Alzheimer's or dementia. We suspect it may have been Lewy body, and the thing about it was that he never didn't recognize any of me or my three siblings or his grandchildren. He always recognized us. So that's why we really put that aside, saying we don't think it's Alzheimer's. It must be something else.
Right. It is interesting how it affects people so differently. My mama, for example, she stayed very sweet, and even though she did not recognize us, she would still hold our hands and smile at everyone. She loved babies. It didn't matter whose baby it belonged to. She would smile at the babies. And then there are other people whose personalities completely change. And I can't imagine having to deal with that firsthand. I'm sure it's very difficult.
Yeah, it was not easy. And I'm sure that you're going through the same thing, Shireen.
Right.
We've all been through it. I mean, the 1 in 3 statistic is there, right?
Right. Exactly.
I want either a cure they come up with a cure or something to slow it down, because this disease has been wrecking families for decades. I just want there some sort of improvement, improvement on
you and me both.
slowing it down,
Yeah.
curing it, anything.
And in my practice dealing with families, we're dealing with this with family members, and it is definitely out there. There's no question that this is something that unfortunately you can't really plan for, but when it happens, it's bring all the resources you can to bear on how to deal with it.
Yeah, right. So, if there's anyone that wants to donate, they can donate. If you want to volunteer, please go to, the Alzheimer's.org website and go and volunteer, put your name down there. If there's people that just want to reach out because they need assistance, or if they want help, that's, the same, go to the same places and ask for help there. Don't be afraid, please.
Yes, you're not alone.
Right.
You're not alone.
It's always the first step that's the hardest, and that is to reach out and pick up the phone or leave that message, whatever it is. You're not alone. And once the first step is done, then there's a lot of relief, I feel, and a lot of eye-opening, from thereafter, education-wise. So, yeah, Christine, thank you so much. So I want to, Todd, go back to you and ask you, what is your vision when it comes to being a fiduciary and having your own business? What is your vision?
Yeah, a vision statement, in case people don't know, is something that you really don't expect will happen in your lifetime. I mean, that's a big, big statement that it possibly won't happen while you're living. And so my vision is that one day, anyone who touches a client's wealth, whether it's their stocks and bonds or their business or their real estate, that they are all fiduciaries.
Right.
And that's, at first that was kind of depressing to me when I thought about it, because I really made that leap and step to becoming a fiduciary, and there was great risk involved. And I have a lot of children and a wife who's very important to me. And it was, it was a real leap of faith to make that change. So at first it made me sad that not everyone was going to be served by a fiduciary. But then I realized, well, that's really a differentiator then for me, isn't it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's going to happen, because there's powerful lobbying forces in the financial services industry, in the insurance industry, in the real estate industry that, will do everything they can to prevent that from happening. But nonetheless, it's just making people more aware. Make them aware that there is a choice. It's their money, it's their assets, it's their net worth. Make them aware and let them make the choice.
Right. Thank you, Todd. And while we're on that as well, I'd like you to please, what do you want people to know about what you do, Todd?
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, Christine, you probably didn't hear it, but I coach families to make sound financial decisions. And, it was interesting when we first came up with that unique value proposition. We would often go into a room with a whiteboard and say, what's our unique value proposition? Well, we had a coach who said, you know what? Ask your clients. They'll tell you what your unique value proposition is. So we literally went out when I made the shift over to Hightower 13 years ago. We went out and interviewed our clients, and the same words kept coming back to us. Mm-hmm. Todd, we trust you. We've known you a long time. You're taking care of our families. And so we crafted counseling families to make sound financial decisions. But then one morning, I was in the shower, and I coach youth sports when I'm not doing what I'm doing. Whatever sports my kids play, I coach, okay? So right now I'm a football coach, I'm a rugby coach, I've been a lacrosse coach in the past. I love coaching because I love to see these kids start out the beginning of the season and see how they develop into the sport over the course of a season. It's amazing. It's miraculous to see how they progress, right? So I'm in the shower and I go, counseling, that's kind of like drug counseling, marriage counseling. That's not a very, very good way to say it. Coaching families to make sound financial decisions. So that was a real eye opener, and it had to be 8 or 9 years ago, and I'm sticking to it because I love to coach.
Right. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Right. So Christine, I wonder if you could just give us a couple of facts about Alzheimer's, just to educate us a little bit. I know I need it.
Of course. So like I mentioned earlier, Alzheimer's does affect 1 in 3 seniors. So again, just looking at this call, it's 1 in 3. In the United States, it actually kills more people than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined, making Alzheimer's the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. So pretty staggering numbers that you don't really think about often. Also, women are more likely to develop Alzheimer's than men are. We find really interesting. And then we're doing a lot of looking at Alzheimer's in the workplace, and not just people who are developing Alzheimer's that are still working, but families who are having to care for loved ones that have Alzheimer's dementia, that are missing work. And so we're doing a big initiative to get companies involved so that they can educate their employees and give them the resources they need, because it does affect their bottom line as well. It's just every year we do send out a facts and figures report, which is fascinating, kind of devastatingly fascinating, but it's really interesting to see. And you can find that on our website as well. And it goes into different race and ethnicities and how they're affected by Alzheimer's dementia too. And so a lot of really great information in there for anyone who is interested.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. And now, Christine, you personally, what is your vision?
Mine is the same as the Alzheimer's Association vision, and that is simple. It's a world without Alzheimer's or dementia.
Right. Like, yes, please. I agree with that.
Right? It's a simple vision.
That'll take a lot of heartbreak away, if you know what I mean.
Definitely. Even if it means I'm out of a job. I'd rather get the world rid of Alzheimer's and dementia, and I will find something else to put my efforts towards.
Exactly. So Christina, you didn't mention too much about yourself personally and just your journey to where you are now in Alzheimer's Association. What was that like? And did you have that epiphany of like, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of your life? Or did you chop and change careers? Or did your friend just phone you up and go, yeah, there's a position here, come?
Honestly, that's pretty much how it happened.
Oh, really?
I studied psychology in college. And then towards the end of my undergrad, figured out very quickly I did not want to go to grad school. And when you study psychology, there's not much you can do with an undergrad. But I always loved volunteering. I loved charity work, nonprofit work. And so I started looking at some nonprofits in Houston that I was interested in. I worked about 6 years with child advocates. And so that is court-appointed special advocates that train volunteers to go represent children in court who are removed from their home in foster care due to abuse and neglect. And so, these children, who doesn't love helping children, right? Loved it there, worked there for 6 years, was a great mission. And then one of my volunteers at Child Advocates called me up while I was actually on maternity leave with my first. And she said, hey, I don't know if you're interested, but there's this job opening. I think you would be great. Told me a little bit about it. I went on my first interview while I was still on maternity leave, and then luckily got the job here at the Alzheimer's Association shortly after. And so I've been here for almost 4 years now and absolutely love it. It's been a great shift for me. Still in the nonprofit work, another cause that I'm very passionate about. So I'm lucky that I get to work for something that I care about. It makes it a lot easier and a lot more worthwhile.
Right. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
So this last year I did it for my birthday, and I'm probably going to do it again with Alzheimer's. I decided to order one of those T-Rex blow-up costumes.
I love those.
Adult version, of course. Put it on, and I made a bucket, and I had the Alzheimer's papered all around it, and I ran around my estate, jumping around by the entrance where everyone comes in and out from work, jumping around the roads like a royal idiot. But it worked though, because
It gets people's attention.
right, I think I blew my targets. I think it was, I mean, we're talking about rands here, but I think I was trying to aim for about a 2,000 rand, and I think I went well over 3,000. So
That's amazing.
Right, it was mind-blowing. And a lot of the feedback I was getting through the windows of the car as people were throwing their money in the buckets were oh, my father's got Alzheimer's, or my mom has got, dementia, and it's so heartbreaking, and thanks for doing this. And so that was a lot of the feedback that I was getting. So it just shows you how close to home Alzheimer's and the dementias are, and how many people are suffering really from it in silence many times. So this year, I think I'm going to find a blow up unicorn, and
I love it,
with cowboy boots on.
Yes, I can help you with the boots.
So I'm excited for this year's fundraiser, and hopefully much more. But yes, so the same question goes for you, Todd. A little bit about your background, in the sense of, your family and things that you like and you don't like. And
well, my wife and I have 5 children together. So yes, we're all, my children and her children. They range from 28 to 15, 4 boys, 1 girl. My daughter graduated from Alabama, Christine, with a major in psychology. And just to show how far apart you can go from that major, she works for a global PR firm in Manhattan. So we have one who just graduated from Michigan, from the nursing school, and he's going to be working in the ICU at Michigan, and he'll probably go on to graduate school. And then we have one who's a freshman in college playing football. He's on a football scholarship. And then our last one is a freshman in high school who also plays football and rugby. So hence the coaching. No, it really is all about family for me. I have 3 siblings and a mom who's still with us. And, we're all right here in the Bay Area, which is really a blessing, other than the kids being in school, wherever they are, and the daughter in Manhattan. But that's why that coaching families to make sound financial decisions really just resonates so much with me, because every family is different. There's families like ours, there's blended families, I was just talking to one of our chapter mates yesterday, Shireen, and I didn't realize this, but her husband passed away unexpectedly of a heart attack, and she had 2 young freshmen and high school kids that she had to, support. So every story is different. Every family needs a customized approach because they are different. And I take a lot of time up front getting to know these families before I start managing their affairs. And, the story of Alzheimer's, dementia, other illnesses, et cetera, it's really forcing me to expand, to add a medical component. My wife is a medical professional, and she does a lot of consulting in the healthcare advocacy world, amongst other things. So, we're here to help families with those health questions. And I think, unfortunately, with the pandemic, there was a lot of undiagnosed issues that are going to start to come to light. And, people need to get in and see their physicians, and we need to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Because though it was a pandemic, I think it did more damage to the mental health than anything else.
Yeah,
so many people lost their jobs. So many people got stuck at home during the lockdown, where unfortunately turned into a lot of divorces, which is very sad. But the divorce rate went up during this time as well.
And suicides too, Shireen.
Suicides. So
and cases of Alzheimer's went up as well.
Right. Really? Right. And thank you for mentioning that, because my father progressed so fast with being locked down in the house and not
Right.
stimulating the brain, I saw such
Right.
a fast progress between before lockdown and now, and we're in the third year already, and just it's so much of a jump compared to how he was doing from day-to-day life for so many years. So yeah, definitely it was very, very hard to see that happening. But talking about mothers, some of us were talking about our mums. It is the month of mothers, and I just wanted to wish all the moms out there a very happy Mother's Day. And thanks for being such awesome moms to us and looking after us. Those moms that are still here on this earth, and even those moms that are no longer with us, we still love you. We appreciate you. And so I just wanted to say that as well. But we've come to the part of the podcast where it is story time or ask a question. So do any of you have any questions you want to ask about my life, about South Africa, about business?
Yes, I have a question for you, Shireen.
Go ahead.
Do you know what I'm going to ask you about? So you were speaking about, career changes and things, and I don't know how many people on the podcast know about your previous career or careers. So tell us about how you deal with 35,000 feet in elevation in an airplane and an emergency, because you did that. Tell us that story.
Right. In fact, I think I mentioned it in the previous podcast, but yes, I was part of the aviation industry for 11 years of my life and a cabin controller for the last 4. We had an emergency. We had a fire on board. You want to know the juicy details? I did mention it in the podcast before this, but it was a very interesting and frightening time all at the same time. And I don't wish it upon anyone, but I think I must mention this. When we were alerted to the smoke, and I got up from I'm talking about whether you flight. What's that? You flight or
your jump seat or
fright or flight? What's that?
Oh, right. Fight or flight.
Fight or flight.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Do you know every single human being will have that for a split second? Whether it's a split second that might turn into flight or a split second that might turn into fight, like they say, everyone has that. So this is Shireen. Right. She gets up out of her jump seat. We stare down the aisle. We see what's going on. Passengers are screaming their lungs out, pointing at the smoke. I saw the flickering of the flames inside the stowage because the stowage is closed that way. So thank goodness. And also the placing of the bags made the culprit bag in the front and not the back. So I saw the flames. But that split second, I stopped, I looked, and I turned around myself a couple of times. I turned around once and again, and I looked up again. And I looked at my two rights, and and then we bent down and we got the halons and we got the gloves. But it just took those few seconds of me spinning around myself. I don't know how many times I did it. I can't remember, but I knew I spun around myself a couple of times and looked up at my colleague, and then something kicked in and we bent down, we got the halon, we tested it, we put on the gloves. I ran into the aisle, I did everything, sprayed, we emptied 2 halons out. But just wanted to share that with you. And the other thing that I did not share in the previous podcast was the feeling of opening that stowage and the heat that hit my face. Mm-hmm. So I can still feel it. I've got goosebumps just talking about it now. I can still feel it to this day. I can remember it so clearly because I had decided to step on the 2 chairs to elevate myself so I can get a better angle to get into the stowage with the halon. Yep. And so as I opened it, the stowage pretty much fell down. And so when it did that, it's not supposed to, some of them are supposed to slowly fall down, but this one fell down. And the heat that hit my face was so intense that I'm surprised that, if it was any worse, I know that I would have had some sort of a burn on my face, because that was the instant shock of it. And I know I went like this because it was like yesterday. And, I'm very grateful once again that we landed on the ground, because we had a fantastic cockpit, turned that beautiful bird around in record timing, landed it in record timing. And then, because once you've put it out with the halon, once it's out, you have to take it out and put it in a bucket of water just to make sure that it's out. So because it was batteries, it can re-spark and it can start another fire. So you have to watch it and make sure it is out. And then once it's extinguished, you've got to make sure it's neutralized. So by removing it and putting it in a bucket of water and then putting it in the back bathroom until you've landed, and then the firefighters come on and they investigate, and it's a huge story from then on. I'm sure you can imagine the airports get involved.
You are a true hero, Shireen.
I don't know.
You are a true hero.
Honestly, guys, I don't know about that, but other than the fact that it was the little miracles that were just perfectly aligned, because if any of those factors were slightly different, I would not be here today. So I don't know if it's me being a hero or just the fact that something else was working in my favor.
Could be both.
Right?
Yes.
So, thanks, Todd, for that question.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I did mention a couple of things that I didn't mention before, but a life, it was an experience that I will always have for the rest of my life, but I don't wish it upon anyone, and I do not want to go through it ever again.
Don't blame me.
Right. So, Christine, do you have a question?
I do, and I'm actually going to ask both of y'all. This is one of my go-to questions. Maybe it's the psychology major in me.
Okay.
But if you any animal, what would you be and why?
You first, Shireen.
Oh, no, come, Todd. I've just finished a question.
Okay, I'll go.
Give her a breather. Todd, what animal would you be and why?
I will go. Even though, University of California, Berkeley is the golden bear. No bear. We do have a son by the name of Bear, by the way. Bear Lyon. It's Lion.
Of course, it would be Lion.
Always identified with lions, right?
That makes sense.
And Born Free, when I was a little kid, that came out, and it was just like, oh my, I am definitely a lion. I totally identify with the lion. And the pride of lions, again, 5 kids, right? Big, giant expedition, Ford Expedition, license plate, Lion Pride.
Oh, I love that.
Love.
All right, good answer. Good answer.
Okay, so if I had to pick an animal right now off the block, I think I would be a dolphin, simply because they are so intelligent. They really connect on every human emotion that we feel they feel. How they communicate with one another and how they are so connected with their pod. Is it a pod of dolphins? No, it's a pod of whales. Isn't it a pod of whales? What is it?
It's still a pod of dolphins.
Is
I
it
don't
a pod
know.
of dolphins?
Someone's going to fact check us. We're going to check Twitter.
I hope not. I'm sure someone that's listening is going to be telling us, it's this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look. We'll go with pod for now, though.
Okay, so while you're looking, I definitely have to be part of a team. So, how they are so in connect with one another. Is it a pod?
Yes.
A thumbs up. It's a pod. Okay. How they connected with one another and communicate with one another with those beautiful sounds underwater, above water, and most importantly, how free they look in that water. Like nothing can touch them. And I feel like for me, that is my inner animal. in a mammal, if you want to call it that rather, because when I'm in my elements, I feel so free, and I feel like I'm just swimming with such glee. And yeah, so
That's great.
definitely
Good answer.
dolphin. What about yourself, Christy?
Oh, I'm a giraffe. You can't tell because I'm on Zoom, but I'm really tall and I'm also really awkward. And so, hands down, a giraffe. I love them.
And I love that as well. I don't think you can be any more awkward than I can, but listen, it's good to know that there's other awkward people out there.
Oh, yeah. We got our own little pod.
Oh, thanks so much. That was so awesome. So, Christine and Todd, thanks so much for joining me. And I just want you to please just share with the people how to find you, because I'm sure there's some people out there that might relate to you and might just want to ask you some questions that, they're curious about a fiduciary or about Alzheimer's or what you do. Where can they reach you?
Go ahead, Christine. You first.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. Again, that number, that helpline, if you tell them that you want to talk to Christine Howard, they will get my information out to you, or they'll connect you right to me. You can say Christine in Houston, Christine Howard, and that should get y'all to me. And I'm going to say the number one more time because it's super important.
Right.
So that's 800-272-3900. Then you'll get me.
That is awesome. Okay. So, and Todd?
So for me, just in any browser search engine, just put Lyon, Lyon Wealth Management, and you'll find me. I'm on LinkedIn as well, which will come up in that browser, or actually my website. And you can contact me through my website. So yeah, that's how you find me.
That's awesome. Thank you, Todd. And the same goes for me. You can find me on LinkedIn, Shireen Buerta. That's normally my business page, as well as www, as I've mentioned in the beginning, shireensbookkeeping.com. But this podcast, and you can get me on all the socials as well, Shireen Buerta, Instagram, Facebook. You'll probably find me there. But for the YouTube people, you can find this podcast, Friends from Wild Places, on YouTube. So if you are watching from the YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. You know what to do. And then those people that are listening, like good podcasters do, please do all the things and share the podcast to your socials and share it with your family, because all your support is needed. If you want to go to the podcast website, you're going to find that from friendsfromwildplaces.buzzsprout.com. So I'm going to say that again. This is the podcast website, is friendsfromwildplaces.buzzsprout.com. So that I'll put in the link, as well as Todd and Christine's connections. And I just want to thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time. And remember, you got this, and stay wild.
You've been listening to Friends from Wild Places with Shireen Buerta. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast from the links to catch every episode and unleash your passion.